Well, it's time to swashbuckle and raise cannonball coming and race the Jolly Roger. The Pittsburgh Pirates are the topic for this cut or what if baseball. So let's welcome to a magical time that the Pittsburgh Pirates were respected, winning division titles, getting chances in the NLCS, and almost making the World Series, unlike today. Like the 2010s were decent for Pittsburgh getting all these chances and all that, but they seem to always falter at the worst possible time. And the city of Pittsburgh has been waiting a long, long time. Let's venture back to the magical year of 1992 when the Pittsburgh Pirates were respected, were vilified and reviled, and a young Barry Bonds actually was a Pittsburgh Pirate. People forget for all his stuff in San Francisco, and yes, that includes the steroids. Bonds was a Pittsburgh Pirate who was on his final year of his contract, and it looked like Bonds was going to get the money, get the bag, as they call it nowadays. But now let's take you back to 1992 for the Pittsburgh Pirates. You've got Jeff Diamond, you've got one man, you've got a hat, a bat, and that's definitely not all. You got the bleachers, got from spring to fall, you got a dog, a drink, and that umpire's call. What do you want? Let's play what if. Okay, okay, Cutter, do some what ifs. Okay, Cutter, do some what ifs. The Pittsburgh Pirates were one of the most heinous teams, if you will, but the Pittsburgh Pirates are one of the oldest teams. They have been around since the 1880s, before the National League was modernized in 1901. They were one of the original 16 franchises for the modern major leagues in 1901. Pittsburgh actually took part in the first World Series in 1903 against the Boston Red Sox and lost 5 games to 3 when they made it best of 9 instead of best of 7. So you had to win 5. So the 1903 Pittsburgh Pirates failed. However, the 1909 Pittsburgh Pirates proved worthy, taking down the Detroit Tigers in the World Series with a young Babe Adams, who became the youngest person to win a Game 7 until John Lackey in 2002. So Babe Adams knew his spot and all that. Pittsburgh kind of had offs and ons. They couldn't get much in the late 1910s, early 1920s. But in 1927, they shocked everyone by winning the NL pennant with the Wainer brothers, Lloyd and Paul, and Kiki Coiler. Unfortunately, though, Pittsburgh fell flat against the one team they didn't really want to face, and that's Murderous Row, the 1927 Yankees, being swept in 4 games. Pittsburgh had some decent players. They had Honus Wagner for a time, Bill Mazeroski, the 30s and 40s were not really that great for Pittsburgh and all that. They did have Ruff Kiner in the 1940s, Kiner's Corner, who won at least six home run titles. I think 7 or 8. But anyway, Ruff Kiner was a legend. But the fact of the matter was that Pittsburgh just couldn't get through and make ends meet, if you will. So Pittsburgh was lost in a sense. The 1950s, the French Rickey came through in 1952 to revamp the Pirates system and practically got rid of Ruff Kiner to the Pirates, from the Pirates to the Cubs. So Ruff Kiner aside, the Pirates just didn't have much left. But in 1960, they had a magical season. Vern Law was pitching great. Harvey Haddix was still around. Bill Mazeroski, Dick Stewart, Dick Grote, Hal Smith, Joe Christopher. The 1960 Pirates were big. And they won the NL pennant and took on those pesky New York Yankees in the World Series. The funny thing about the first 6 games of that World Series was that the Yankees, when they won by double digits. When the Pirates won, it was by the skin of their teeth. So it all went down to a Game 7 in 1960. That's one of the most famous games ever. And thanks to the foresight of one Bing Crosby, yes, the guy behind White Christmas and a crooner, and putting the Game 7 on a kinescope, which was an early videotape recording thing. We got to see Game 7 of the World Series in its entirety, the NBC broadcast, because, 1960 couldn't afford the tape and all that. But yeah, Game 7 was there. It was a magical Game 7. Pittsburgh and Yankees went down right to the butt end. Pittsburgh was up 9-7 after 8 innings, after a Hal Smith home run, which was the same inning in which a ground ball got Tony Kubek in the throat for the Yankees. The Yankees ended up scoring 2 runs in the ninth to tie the game 9-9. And then in the bottom of the ninth, Ralph Terry faced Bill Mazeroski. After taking a ball, Mazeroski lifted a pitch over the left field wall. Yogi Berra was playing left field because of him being so much of a catcher. They wanted him to play left field. And unfortunately for Berra, that ball was gone over the left field wall. And it was the first time that the World Series ended on a walk-off home run. Second time, of course, is Joe Carter. People thought that Pittsburgh was going to be the new hotshot team in the National League. Not so fast. Pittsburgh stumbled in the 1960s. However, in 1971, everything came together as the Pirates would take care of the Baltimore Orioles in 7 games, in which was the first time a World Series game was at night. It was in 1971. So the Pirates did that. Of course, Steve Blass, the hero of Game 7, would soon fall victim to the Steve Blass disease, which was basically him having a great job, and then he just stopped gaining his control. Pittsburgh would fight back. 1972, they went to the LCS. Bob Moose, unfortunately, threw the wild pitch that scored the winning run, and the Reds won that and lost the World Series to the A's. Unfortunately, though, Pittsburgh would lose Roberto Clemente in 1972 on New Year's Eve, as his body was never recovered, I think. But, the plane going to Nicaragua had crashed in the Atlantic Ocean. So nevertheless, Pittsburgh still fought back. And in 1979, they had the We Are Family thing with Pop Stargell, one of the Pirates who was still around from the 71 squad. Pittsburgh was down 3-1 to the Orioles, but won 3 straight to win that World Series. Of course, after 1992, things would be terrible. I'll get more into it when I give you the stats for 1992, but I just wanted you to see what Pittsburgh was all about. Were they good? I think so. So anyhow, this is the 1992 Pittsburgh season, 111th season in Pirates history, and the 106th in the National League. Their 23rd season at Three Rivers Stadium, which took over from Forbes Field. They won 96 games, and for the third consecutive season, they were the NL East champions. So, of course, we all know the NLCS rematch. But anyway, Al Martin was signed as a free agent by the Pirates, which actually worked. Michael LaVerriere, good catcher, signed by the Pirates. Neil Heaton was traded from Pittsburgh to Kansas City for Kirk Gibson, which was shocking because you got Kirk Gibson. I wonder how good he would be in 92. Regardless of that, Dennis Lamp was signed as a free agent by the Pirates. Blue Jay fans would know who he was because in 1985, Lamp won 11-0. John Smiley, a great pitcher for the Pirates, was traded to Minnesota for Danny Nagel, an unknown by the name of Danny Nagel. The Pirates would win the NL East with 96 wins. Second place was Montreal. They had a good April, a terrible May, 6 games below 500, and 3 games below in July. So, it was Jekyll and Hyde. They had a terrible mark against the Braves, 5-7. They were middling over some teams. San Diego, they were 5-7. They were 9-9 against Montreal. But St. Louis and the Mets were basically mincemeat to them. The Expos were the hardest team they had to face in the NL East. And all that. But they went on a 22-10 tear. The 92 Pirates had Stan Belinda, their reliable closer, Danny Cox, future Blue Jay, I should say, because he played for the 93 Blue Jays. Doug Drabek, who was an NL icon, but then Drabek left for Houston in the 92 offseason. So, that was his last season in Pittsburgh. Danny Jackson, former iconic pitcher for the Reds and Royals, who actually would be part of the 93 Phillies that went to the National League, that won the National League. Dennis Lamp, the former Blue Jay. Roger Mason, who went for the Pirates to the Phillies as well. Denny Nagel, who was this guy coming out of freaking nowhere. Zane Smith, good pitcher. Tim Wakefield, yes, Tat Tim Wakefield, who recently died. Yeah, Tim Wakefield was this unheard of rookie who had 8-1 and put the knuckleball back in everyone's things, and Bob Walk as well. Their catchers were decent. Don Slott was the backup to Mike LaVerriere. Infielders Jay Bell, you know, ring my bell, who was a good pie, and then he went. Where did he go afterwards? He didn't. I know he went to Arizona, but I think he went somewhere else beforehand. Steve Buscemi, former Cub and Ranger. Carlos Garcia, decent player. Jeff King was a good third baseman, but he left to free agency. Jose Lind, the second baseman who never made an error. Orlando Merced and a young Kevin Young. Outfielders Barry Bonds, yes, they're wearing number 24 in your programs. And of course, you couldn't wear 24 in San Francisco because Willie Mays had that number. Alex Cole, former Indian. Kirk Gibson, former Dodger and Tiger icon, who was on his last leg. Al Martin, a young Lloyd McClendon, who would be better known as a manager. Lance Lake, who the Pirates lost in '92, and Gary Farshall. Oh, and don't forget that Bobby Bonilla was actually lost in free agency to the Mets. So the '92 Pirates didn't have Bobby Bonilla, Bobby Bones. Their starting lineup was Kirk Gibson, Jay Bell, Eddie Vince Lake, Barry Bonds, Orlando Merced, Steve Buscemi, Mike LaVerriere, Jose Lind, and Doug Drabek. So batting wise, yeah, they had a weird way of thinking that way. RBIs wise, Bonds with 103 RBIs, Eddie Vince Lake second, Jeff King 65. So that's all they got. In the regular season for pitching, you had Doug Drabek win 15 games, Randy Tomlin won 14, Bob Walk with 10, and Tim Wakefield coming out of freaking nowhere to be 8-1, and as I said, bringing the knuckleball back into place. In the '92 NLCS, the Braves won Game 1, 5-1. Game 2 saw the Braves crush Pittsburgh 13-5, so it looked like Atlanta was going to win the World Series. But in Game 3, Pittsburgh came back 3-2 as Wakefield and his knuckler stymied Atlanta, although Bream and Gant went deep. Braves won 6-4 in Game 4, so it was over as it seemed. Well, technically, no. As Pittsburgh scored 4 runs in the first inning, as Bob Walk was an emergency starter for Game 5, and the Pirates won. Steve Avery just didn't last that long. In Game 6, Tim Wakefield shocked everyone by throwing a complete game victory, and Pirates scored 8 runs in the second inning off of Tommy Glavine. So it was up to Game 7, and Pittsburgh was up 2-0 through 8.5. All they had to do was screw Atlanta over. Drabek pitched 8 innings, and then, he gave up a few players, and then came the Braves, and then Stan Belanda came in. Unfortunately for Jose Lind, the Gold Glove second baseman, he made an error at the worst possible time, and that put runners on. Atlanta needed something, and they practically decided to use Francisco Cabrera, of all people, to hit a ball that was looping. A base hit, scored 1, and then Sid Bream, who was a former first baseman for the Pirates, ironically enough, and who was not fast. He was slow as molasses. Barry Bonds in left field could not throw to the plate fast enough to LaVerriere, and the Braves won Game 7 3-2, thanks to Francisco Cabrera being a hero. Can't forget Sean McDonough's call. It's to the plate. It is safe. I'm on the plate. The Braves move on to the World Series. So yeah, that's what happened. And of course, that October 14th day was actually the same day as the Blue Jays winning at home to Oakland to clinch their first World Series title appearance ever. So yeah, Sid slid. How Sid Bream could slide home ahead of a Barry Bonds throw and ruin Pittsburgh and all that. Notable moves: Kirk Gibson was released in May '92. Jeff Robinson was selected off waivers by the Pirates June 10th. Dennis Lamp was released. Danny Cox was then signed as a free agent. And Tim Wakefield was called up from AAA Buffalo, which actually helped them out in the end. Jason Kendo was the first round pick by the Pirates, which was pretty good because he was a Pittsburgh icon. But as it says right here, that they allowed 3 runs to the Braves, capped by Francisco Cabrera's 2 RBI single that scored Dave Justice and an injured Sid Bream. The loss was so agonizing for the Pirates, it contributed to a 20-year drought that saw them fail to clinch a winning season or postseason berth till 2013. So, for how shitty the Tampa Bay Rays seemed to be, and for a while, maybe even the Milwaukee Brewers, the Pirate 20 years, it took Tampa 10 years to get a winning record. Hell, it took Seattle 14 years from the start of their um, franchise to get a winning record. Pittsburgh had a 20-year drought. That's the longest in Major League history. Of all franchises, it's the Pirates, not the Mariners, not the Rays, not the Marlins, not even the Marlins, and God forbid, not the Blue Jays. Anyway, this was actually the Pirates' most recent division title in 1992. It's the longest drought in Major League Baseball. All 29 franchises, except for Pittsburgh, have at least a division title. The Diamondbacks have one. The Rockies have one. The Marlins even have one. I think. I don't think Marlins have ever won one. But then again, the Marlins were born in 1993. And Tampa's won a few division titles. So that's just what happened. I mean, one bad throw from Barry Bonds that he could not retire Sid Bream at the plate, who was hobbled, nevertheless. And it set up a 20-year drought. And worst of all for Pittsburgh, they lost Drabek, they lost Van Slyke, and they lost Barry Bonds to free agency after the 92 season. So think about that in your coffee. So here's the critical what if. It's the critical what if. What if the Pirates actually did win Game 7 of the NLCS and took on the Blue Jays for the division, for the World Series? Now, both teams won 96 games. The Pirates only would host Game 1, would have home field advantage because in baseball they rotated. So 93, of course, the Blue Jays hosted Game 1. 92, the Braves did, but of course we take out the Braves and put up the Pirates. And this is their starting lineup as you see, and the Blue Jays starting lineup as you can see right here. So that's what happened. So anyway, Game 1 sees Jack Morris. In real life, it was Jack Morris pitching. He would face Zane Smith because Doug Drabek was the guy who pitched Game 7. So obviously they got to give him some rest. So Game 1 sees the Blue Jays lose 6-5. Unreal. Pirates struck first. Don Slide hit a sac fly to score Farshow. Kelly Gruber gets a sac fly to score Borders. Pat Borders went in the third inning, hit a double to score Orud and Joe Carter. Manny Lee would single to score Pat Borders. Remember, Tony Fernandez was not a Blue Jay in 92. That was 93. Barry Bonds hits a double to score Jay Bell, 4-2. Pat Borders singles to score Maldonado to make it 5-2. Jose Lynn hits a single to score Rosette to make it 5-3 in the bottom of the 6th. Bottom of the 7th, Varsho grounds out. Bonds walks. Morris throws a wild pitch. Van Slyke grounds out to first. Runner on third with 2 outs. All the Jays have to do is get rid of Don Slot. But he hits a double to score Bonds. Dwayne Ward comes in the pitch. And no, he was not the closer. That was Tom Hankey. But Orlando Merced hit a single to score Slot to tie the game. And then the bottom of the 8th, Pat Hankin decides to pitch. Steve Buscemi comes in to pinch hit for Roger Mason. Strikeout swing after Lynn was out. So you have 2 outs. For our show, Bell and Bonds walk. And then Van Slyke walks. Mike Timlin comes in to save the day. Stan Belinda for the save. Carter, Maldonado, and White all go down in order. So St. Smith went 5. Bob Patterson in inning the 3rd. Roger Mason in inning 2/3. Belinda the save for the last inning. Morris 6 2/3. Dwayne Ward at 3rd. Hankin 2/3 and Timlin a 3rd. So the Pirates are up 2-0. They figure that Doug Drabek is healthy enough for Game 2. Now there's one tiny little problem. The Blue Jays, we all know in Game 2 in real life had David Cone. But for some effed up reason, sim matchup doesn't put David Cone in the rotation. I know damn well that Guzman pitched Game 3 and Jimmy Key pitched Game 4. So we have to go with Stoudemire because I know damn well Dave Steve was too injured to play in the 92 season. And of course, the Blue Jays would score 21 hits and win the game 8-6. 21 hits, that's amazing. Olerud had 5 hits, Alomar 4, Carter 3, and Devon White 3. Carter singles to score Alomar, make it 1-0. And then in the bottom of the fourth, after Bonds and Vince Lake are on base, Jeff King, Pittsburgh King, hits a 3-run home run to make it 3-1. The sixth was huge. Jeff Kent came in to pinch hit for McDonald. For Rob McDonald. Now, of course, this is false because Jeff Kent did not finish the 92 season with the Blue Jays. He was traded to the Mets for David Cone. Nevertheless, Kent comes in and hits into a double play. But Robbie Alomar hits a triple to score Lee and Gruber to make it 3-3. Bob Patterson pitches, Al Oru doubles to score Alomar, and then Joe Carter hits one down the left field line to make it 6-3. And then the bottom of the eighth, Pat Hankin pitches. He plunks Fence Lake. Slot walks. Merced strikes out. King flies out to right field. So 2 outs. But Jose Lind hits a double to score Fence Lake and Don Slot. Make it 6-5. Lloyd McClendon comes in to pinch hit for Nagel. And Mike Timlin comes in to pitch. But Lloyd McClendon hits a single, proving he was a decent hitter, 6-6. Jerry Don Gleedon came in to pitch. Lee flies out, Gruber grounds out. Derek Bell comes in to pinch hit for Timlin. Hits a single. Robbie Alomar hits a single. And then John Oru gets a single score. Bell. Tim Wakefield comes in to pitch. Carter singles to score Alomar. Makes it 8-6. Tom Hankey comes in for the save. And Bonds walks, but the rest of the way, nothing happens. So Toronto's 1-1. So Drabek, Patterson, Mason, Nagel, Don Gleedon, and Wakefield. Blue Jays, Stoudemire, Rob McDonald, Dwayne Ward, Pat Hankin, Mike Timlin, Tom Hankey. So we go to Toronto for game 3, because of course we do. So Dave Winfield comes in at DH. So yeah, Juan Guzman. Pittsburgh can't use. The one problem is Pittsburgh cannot use Tim Wakefield because he's not in this thing. But I will use Danny Jackson for game 3. And it works. A close knit 2-1 win for the Pirates. Any Vince Lake draws a bases loaded walk. Bond struck out, but then Vince Lake walks, making 1-0. Juan Guzman throws a terrible wild pitch to score Buchelli. Alomar singles scored Manny Lee. It's 2-1. Blue Jays had runners on first and second in the sixth, but Borders and Lee are out. Blue Jays had runners on first and third for Dave Winfield, who hit a ground ball double play. Yeah, Stambolina came in and got Borders, Lee, and Gruber at the end. Guzman went 6 innings. Dwayne Ward went the 7th. Hankin pitched the last 2 innings. For the Pirates, Danny Jackson went 6. Bob Patterson pitched 2, and then Belinda came in for the save. So 2-1 Pirates. Game 4 sees Bob Walk take a chance against the Game 4 starter Jimmy Key in real life. And it doesn't work. The Blue Jays crushed Pittsburgh in the fine powder 9-0. Joe Carter hits a double to score Olerud and Winfield. Maldonado singles to score Carter. Borders singles to score Devo. Hey, Devo. Dave Winfield singles to score Olerud, 5-0. Devon White goes deep in the 5th to make it 6-0. John Olerud singles to score Alomar, 7-0. And then in the bottom of the 8th, Alomar hits a triple to score manually and Olerud singles. So 9-0. Nothing else matters. And Jimmy Key goes 7 innings. I'm surprised they took him out. He went 7. David Cohn pitched 2 innings. Yeah, they put David Cohn in as a reliever, but not as a starter. Pathetic. Bob Walk goes 3 innings, couldn't do anything. Wakefield goes 3 innings, couldn't do anything. And former Blue Jay Dennis Lamp couldn't do much. So yeah, this is from the start of the season. This is kind of dumb. So the Pirates go back to St. Smith because he started game 1, and so Jack Morris as well. So it's 2-2. And in the end, the Pirates win game 5, 10-3. There was nothing until the 3rd when Vince Lake singles scored Lynn and Bonds. Olerud singles to score Lee and Alomar, 2-2. And then in the 6th, Fielder's Choice scored Buchelli. But then in the 8th, Dwayne Ward comes in to pitch. No big deal. Vince Lake singles. Slot pops out. Buscelli gets hit by a pitch. Merced walks. Jeff King strikes out swinging, so they need one more out. But Lynn hits a 2 RBI single score fence like in Buscelli. Maldonado hits Philly George 5-3. Pat Hankin comes in the pitch. Bonds walks, steals second. Alomar bobbles it. So first and third, the Don slot hits the single score Bonds. Buscelli doubles to score Van Slake. Merced fouls out the first. King gets a double score slot on Buscelli. David Cohn comes in the pitch and gives up a hit to Lynn. We get 10-3. Jeff Robinson came in to pitch and got the outs. Jack Morris 7. Dwayne Ward went the 8th. Hankin and Cohn pitched the 9th. Poor Hankin. Dane Smith went 6th. Patterson went in the 3rd. Then Roger Mason went 1. Then Jeff M. Robinson came in. So the Pirates go home up 3-2 with their best guy, Doug Drabek, up for game number 6. And I think Buscelli played right field, right? Buscelli can play right field. Yeah, Buscelli can play right field and pit. Like anyway, game 6 sees the Blue Jays win 4-1. It was a close one. No action until the 5th when an RBI grounded by Gruber scores Borders. But then in the 6th, Alomar singles, Olerud singles, runs on first and third. Carter walks. Maldonado gets a sac fly. Devon White strikes out. But Pat Borders hits a single to score Olerud and Carter, making it 4-0. In the bottom of the 9th, Ward comes in the pitch, slot singles. Merced hits in a double play. Jeff King hits a home run, and then Jose Lynn rounds out. Drabek went 8 innings, 101 pitches, and loses. Stoudemire went 8 innings, doing well, and Dwayne Ward pitched the 9th. So it's 3-3. We got a game 7 on our hands. So Juan Guzman against Danny Jackson for game 7 for all the marbles. And the marbles go to the Blue Jays. So the Blue Jays would have won in game 7, 11-2, giving Pittsburgh another game 7 loss, but this time in fantasy. So the Blue Jays would have won game 7 in Pittsburgh, 11-2. Juan Guzman hits a single to score Gruber. As RJO Network famously says, DH, I don't need no stinking DH. Manny Lee singles to score Maldonado in the 4th. Gruber hits in the fielder's choice to score a run. But in the 5th, things happen. King makes a terrible throwing error. Olerud singles. Carter hits a double to score Alomar and Olerud. Maldonado strikes out. Devo hits a single to score Carter. He tries for second base and gets caught. Bordeaux singles and Manny Lee out. 6-0. Olerud then hit a double to score Gruber, and Robinson comes in to pitch. Dave Winfield comes in to pinch hit for Guzman and grounds out the 3rd. Alomar singles. Olerud gets a double to score Alomar. Carter walks. Maldonado goes deep for a 3-run tater tot to make it 11-0. David Cohn comes in for the 8th. Lamp grounds out. They let Dennis Lamp hit for himself, which was weird. Bell strikes out on a bad play. Buscelli walks. Bonds singles to make it 1st and 3rd. And then Van Slake scores Buscelli, and then Rob McDonald pitches and then slot gets a single. 11-2. King strikes out. Lynn flies out. McClendon comes in for Lamp to pinch hit, and he hits a single. And then Bell singles, but Buscelli lines out. So Danny Jackson goes 5 2/3. Jeff M. Robinson, 1 batter, and gets the out. Dennis Lamp, 3 innings, just sucked. Guzman went 7, then David Cohn, 2 1/3, and Rob McDonald pledged the 9th. E-I-E-I-O. He got the Jays the winning round. E-I-E-I-O. With a win-win here and a win-win there. Screwing over Barry Bonds, sending him to San Francisco. The Blue Jays won the World Series. E-I-E-I-O. Sorry, I had to sing that. But anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.